planning laws affect all of our lives wherever we live. And it's the planners who have to police the countless rules and regulations, dealing with everything from applications...
And the new house there.
Keeping builders on the straight and narrow...
We've given them the weekend to do it, nothing's happened, we're taking action.
...and getting tough when it all goes wrong.
We'll see you in court.
They'll help you get the building up, but if you don't have permission, they could make you knock it down. This week, residents fight to stop a garden development.
Well, what people say it's NIMBYism, maybe it is, but I mean, I've got it and I'd like to keep it.
Some much-loved trees face the axe.
It's just a really beautiful tree. You know, once it's gone, it's gone.
And an enforced clearance puts one man's livelihood on the line.
This is a nightmare for me. I'll probably end up losing my house as a result of it.
Land for new homes is at a premium, and developers see any empty space as a building opportunity. The most popular source of land is our back gardens, which are coming under threat from what's known as garden grabbing. Alan Sotheby, head of planning development in Braintree, Essex, is looking at such an application.
And it's in the far garden.
A local builder has bought a house with a large garden in which he hopes to build another home.
And the proposal to divide the plot off broadly, looking at those sorts of proportions, I would say that a metre, all right, so it's going to be here. So that wall will go, a new boundary straight across, a new road is showing coming in, sort of swerving round, hugging the hedge, and the new house there.
This 1960s private estate is a popular place to live, with spacious gardens set around a communal green.
Some local residents are really concerned about the increase in traffic. Well, we've got to be honest here. Can we really defend a reason for refusal based on the fact that one more dwelling is going to increase comings and goings to such an extent that it's going to affect people's amenity? I find that a bit... I struggle with that. It's just one more house.
I think the back door's open.
The application hasn't impressed local residents. 20 out of 24 of them have written to the council opposing the plans.
I mean, the main problem is that so if they get planning permission down at the bottom end, precedent will be set, and then, you know, the big fear is that they'll go for knocking down the original property and trying to fit in another 3 or 4. And the place will be just like any other sort of overdeveloped estate.
We consider ourselves to be very lucky around here, really. We've got a really nice green area, which is lots of open space.
You've got nothing behind you, it's just open fields. Well, this is what we're trying to preserve.
We all enjoy the space, we all enjoy living up here, we all care for it, and we just don't want any more squeezed in, really.
There's concern about precedent, and that might be what's fueling people's concern a lot. But every site has to be considered on its merits. So you consider this one on its merits and the impact of this one. And if another application comes in the future for somewhere else, that'll be considered on its merits. And you can't say that just because we'll have approved this one here, we therefore have to approve one somewhere else. A lot of people believe that is the case, but it isn't.
Because there are so many objections, the final decision will be taken at a public planning committee. Planning departments don't just look after new buildings, they also decide how land is used. In North London, a front garden has been turned into an unlawful storage area, and planning enforcement specialist Nigel Wicks is on his way to clear up the mess.
The chap that lives there tends to collect a lot of rubbish, much to the annoyance of his neighbours and the neighbourhood.
Despite being issued with an enforcement notice, the owner hasn't emptied the garden.
No, we told you we'd be back if you've collected more stuff. Oh, God.
The owner, Jonathan Cocking, runs a business selling second-hand motorbikes and old books. He's well known to his local council.
Well, some of it's come back because I've sold it. I've been paid hundreds of pounds for it.
Yeah, I know, you told us that last time.
But
we did tell you the council weren't going to tolerate it again, so this time we're going to have to tidy it up completely.
A year ago, Nigel and his team visited Jonathan and cleared his front garden. But despite warnings and fines from the council, he's filled it to bursting point again.
Wouldn't it have been nice if somebody a week ago had said, look, we're planning to visit you next Saturday to clear your garden, so why don't you clear it for us and save us the trouble and you the expense? And I could have done it.
Well, we told you a year ago. That's what the notice
Look,
said.
we're arguing about the cost of a phone call. I think...
But that's what I'm saying is, the council shouldn't need to phone you up. You shouldn't put the stuff... I'm telling you now, don't put the stuff here. Then the council won't need to phone you up.
What I'm talking about is the council...
No, I told you that we had the same conversation a year ago,
The council
didn't we?
are supposed to be employed by all the people who live in the borough to do things for them. They're hired by
and the people that live in the borough have told us they cannot tolerate what you do at this place and have asked the council to solve this problem.
I am a ratepayer as well, and I would have thought I would be entitled to a friendly phone call to say, look,
you've had a friendly phone call, you've had a friendly letter, you've had a not so friendly notice, and now you've had a not so friendly visit.
Well, I'm very distressed about the whole blooming thing. This is a nightmare for me. I'll probably end up losing my house as a result of it. The proceeds from the sale of these things we're going to use to pay the arrears on my mortgage. That's why I've suddenly decided to sell them after I've had them in storage for several years. I suddenly decided to sell everything on eBay in order to raise the money to pay my mortgage arrears. I brought the stuff here, now the council are taking it, so I can't do it.
Jonathan's goods will be held by the council for 3 days. He'll only get them back if he can prove he has a lawful storage area. If not, they'll be destroyed.
I need this for running bike back into my van. It's all I've got left since you stole my aluminium, or since your men stole my aluminium wrap.
We don't expect cooperation. The amount of non-cooperation obviously makes the job easier or harder depending on how uncooperative people want to be. And obviously Mr. Cocking's intent on undoing the job as fast as we do it. But thankfully we're a bit quicker at doing the job than he is at undoing it.
Excuse me, I've got to make a list now, otherwise I'm going to lose all my stuff. Well, frankly, I haven't had a chance to get the inside of the house straight since the last time you were here. It is not rubbish. It's that, which it looks like rubbish, but it has a valuable registration number still on it, worth about 300 quid. This bike is sold and paid for.
For Jonathan, there is a matter of principle at stake.
It's my own home, and I rather feel that an Englishman's home is his castle, and I felt my stuff was safe if I brought it home with me. So, obviously not. The rules have changed.
An Englishman's home may indeed be his castle, but only if planning laws aren't broken.
So a nice chair. Everybody needs to sit down now and again. Can I have those? I've just bought those. Can I have those covers back?
For Jonathan, it's now a race against time to save his goods before the council takes them all away. In Essex, local residents are fighting an application to build a new house in the garden of an existing home. Today, they will have a chance to argue their case as the application comes before the planning committee. Despite the neighbours' objections, Alan has recommended that the application should be approved by the councillors at the meeting.
And there's clearly a very high level of public opposition to a proposal. It starts to question whether you're doing the right thing. But the government has made it abundantly clear that the sheer scale of public opposition in itself is not a sound reason for refusing planning permission. It needs to be based on sound planning grounds. We're recommending approval because we don't feel that there are any sustainable grounds to actually defend a refusal of planning permission. But that's my view, and that's the consensus view of the officers.
Over the last few years, there's a number of building developments have been allowed to go ahead in Braintree, which have spoiled a lot of these open aspects that we had, and in some ways it's becoming very dense housing.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if people consider, oh yeah, it's all right for them, they live up there, and it's a not in my backyard issue, but it's probably what most people would think, but it isn't. It's just, we just say, as only said, we're just trying to preserve something, a pleasant environment.
The next person wishing to make a statement is Terry Surrey.
Terry has just 3 minutes to persuade a large panel of local councillors to reject the scheme.
The proposed development, by reason of its size and location on the site, would result in a cramped appearance out of character with its surroundings. We, many of whom are long-term residents, believe that it is our responsibility to preserve its unique character for future generations, and would strongly urge you to refuse this application. Thank you very much.
The developer has sent planning agent Russell Ford to convince the councillors to let him build the house.
Thank you, Chairman. We're proposing a detached house with retained space around it. It's very generous in relation to normal standards and far exceeds the council's norms. Those that object express an extreme view. They say no change is acceptable under any circumstance, whereas the adopted local plan is saying some change is acceptable, just be respectful of character.
Well, clearly this is within town development boundary, but I have to say at this point I'd like to hear further debate, because I'm still not sure which way I might vote.
There is a condition in there which makes it quite clear that no vegetation will be removed. Given that, I can't really see where it's against policy.
We've all heard the arguments for and against, and I would move refusal of this application.
Thank you. All those in favour of granting this application? Those against? The application has been refused.
The application is rejected by a narrow margin of just 2 votes.
It was a close vote, and closer than I thought, but no, it's democracy in action, I suppose. It's fine.
I think the councillors thankfully saw sense, and they listened to the people, and we're very pleased that they did so.
I don't actually think we've seen the last of it.
Might well have won this battle tonight, but we haven't won the war yet.
And they're right. The developers immediately put in another application, which the committee again turns down. They also lose their appeal against the decision. Perhaps now the war is over. In North London, the enforcement action against Jonathan Cocking's misuse of his garden is drawing to a close.
I spotted a pair of handlebars which I just sold yesterday, and I promised the man I'd post them on Monday. Handlebars off a 1956 Lambretta Model LD, sold for 20 quid.
Despite appearances, one man's junk is another man's treasure.
I wish I could afford to stop selling anything and just live in luxury and have a nice garden with roses all over it, but unfortunately that's next year's plan. But this isn't going to help. This is going to set me back a bit considerably.
Okay, well, make sure that no more materials arrive in your front garden area.
Head of Brent Council's planning enforcement team, Tim Rolt, reminds Jonathan of the consequences if he continues to use his garden as a store.
Right. So must make sure that you don't store anything in your front garden area, back garden area, or downside of your property. Otherwise, we'll be back. And we don't want to be back. Right. I don't want to be back. I'm sure you don't want us to be back, so...
Definitely not, no. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye. They can argue that it wasn't necessary for them to ring me up and tell me they were coming, but it would have been nice and friendly for them to do that instead of all this, wouldn't it? They're doing this because they can send me a big hefty bill for it and make money out of it.
The council will charge Jonathan £1,500 for today's action. This will be added to the bill for last year's clearance, which he still hasn't paid.
It's quite sad, really. I feel sorry for him. I mean, clearly he's been doing all his life, and it's part of his business. But I'm afraid it's not suitable to be carried out in the front garden of a residential property.
Jonathan now has just 3 days to apply for the return of his goods before they are destroyed. Planning officers have a huge range of responsibilities protecting the environment. Trees are judged on their age and rarity and can be protected by a tree preservation order. Any work done on them has to be authorised by the council. Tree officer Anne Currell has received applications from an insurance company to cut down 2 protected mature oak trees just a mile apart in North London. A combination of climate change and old housing stock built on shallow foundations has led to more applications to remove trees.
It is extremely annoying. It really, really is. I do this job because I love trees and plants, and to have applications to fell trees right around the twist.
One tree stands accused of causing cracks in a conservatory, the other of damaging an extension. The insurers have applied to cut them down, even though both the tree owners want them to stay. But because the trees are protected by the council, Anne has to decide whether to recommend felling.
If we say no, then it's a privately owned tree, but that we potentially end up picking up the tab if the tree was removed, £6,000 or whatever, and repairing the damage with the tree being retained, which is £25,000. They've actually given figures in the application.
The insurance company has commissioned a report supporting their application to remove the trees. To save them, protesters will have to persuade the council that the report is wrong. Deborah Callan's house overlooks one of the oaks. She has enlisted the help of veteran tree campaigner Vicky Harding. Their first job is to challenge the alleged age of the tree.
The OCA report estimates that tree is between 76, I think, and 100 years old.
Well, there's no way. It's not a fast-growing oak, you can tell that. You know, it's got lots of elbows in it, it's sort of changed direction, and as the oaks do. It's not one of those ones that rocket up. It's been here for ages, for heaven's sake.
I think so. Yeah, pretty substantial.
Look at that.
I don't think I could get my arms around this tree.
I think a hug is about 1.5 meters, they say. So if 2 people hug and can't touch, it's more than 3 meters round.
The diameter of a tree trunk is a good indication of its age, with most oaks growing 2.5 centimetres every year.
Yeah, so it's about 3.5 meters probably.
And in good health?
Good tree, yeah.
For many people, trees hold a special place in their heart. Gordon Steele has known the oak for 25 years.
I was standing under it the other day to reacquaint myself with it, and it really is in fantastic condition. I used to spend many happy hours with my friend who lived here then, sadly died, sitting in his back patio and enjoying the surroundings, especially this beautiful tree. So every time I pass, I'm conscious of my friend being here or not being here. But it's a sort of tree that perhaps if one was going to engrave a heart on it with so-and-so loves so-and-so, that would be it.
Claire Cowlman and Larry Finley live next door to the other oak and are devastated at the thought of losing it.
It's just a really beautiful tree. And if you start thinking about it, you think, OK, if this tree is at least 100 years old, that's 1907, that's the Edwardian era. It starts bringing up thoughts of history, and you kind of think, well, you know, that's when, you know, when my grandfather was alive. I mean, it's, you know, it's a sort of generational thing, a continuity thing.
Well, I think it was different. 1850s, it's even older. But also, an oak is really, really special. I think oak is something incredibly fundamental about an oak that, more than virtually any other tree, it's ancient. I mean, you know, oaks themselves are ancient and huge. You look at it, the girth is enormous.
I hope they would do the right thing, because it's a stunning tree, and it would be, you know, once it's gone, it's gone. It's not like we can all look back and go, oh, if only we'd done this, or if only we'd opposed the application. So we're just doing everything we can.
Anne has to weigh up both sides. There is some evidence that the foundations of the conservatory have been poorly built, but the insurance company's report blames the oaks for the property damage.
I hate saying this is a healthy tree, you fell it anyway because somebody hasn't built the building properly. Of course I hate it. The tree was there long before the building. Then if the presence of the tree had been taken into account, particularly when it's relatively minor damage. Yes, it is very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Anne feels she has no choice but to recommend that both trees should be chopped down. But with so many objections, both cases must go before a public planning committee for a final decision.
Oh, baby, I know I've been a fool.
On the other side of London, Jonathan Cocking is expecting a delivery at a lock-up 15 miles from his house.
I applied to take out an injunction against Brent Council to stop them taking any more of my stuff and to make them bring back everything they've taken. And once the hearing date had been booked, I had to serve notice on the council, and at that stage they started communicating with me, and they agreed before we came to court to bring my stuff back on the basis that they were allowed to check that this yard had planning permission for what I am using it for before they did it. And they must have found it was all right, because the next thing is they've agreed to bring it all back this morning.
Nigel is returning what can be salvaged of Jonathan's goods to his legal lock-up.
Morning, Nigel.
Morning, Jonathan.
Is there another lorry with books on?
Those are all the books that we managed to salvage. The rest of them...
That isn't very many, is it?
No, I think we've got 6 boxes there for you. We got your...
You've got the leather...
Your special ones.
You've got the special ones back. That's good.
Right, you got that one.
Take back. Thank you.
There's obviously a problem that Mr. Cocking's got with his view of the world, and he's always got a different view to other people. People are different. I mean, it's the same with all planning problems. Planning's there to sort of normalise the environment and try and sort of achieve an environment that's acceptable to us all. Well, enjoy yourself and good luck trying to sell them.
Thank you. In many cases, I've already done that. I'm just waiting for you to bring them back.
Cheers, then. Thank you. Ta-da.
May see you again. Yeah. Hope not, but it's nothing personal. Bye-bye. I wish I could earn my living by selling something very small, like Japanese netskis or something like that. So I could keep my whole stock in a small box. It would be nice.
It's been an expensive week for Jonathan. It has cost him £1,500 for the removal and return of his goods. But he believes he has come to an understanding with the council.
They now know that I'm not going to take it lying down, and I will bite back, and I'm not just a pushover. So they will think twice before doing anything like that again. And so I think we've got what used to be known as a Mexican standoff.
The council will be keeping an eye on Jonathan's front garden from now on. Winter has arrived, and with it the final stage in the battle to save 2 oak trees from being chopped down. Tonight, the cases are to be decided by local councillors at a planning committee meeting. Claire is going to speak in defence of one of the oaks, but neither she nor Larry is hopeful.
Larry feels slightly more optimistic than I do, but I'm a terrible pessimist. I just think... No,
I honestly
feel...
don't know what the chances are. I said to Claire on the way here, I think they're 60-40 against. I think we've got something like a 40% chance of winning.
And I said, oh, as good as that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure I should give it my best shot. I know, I feel like, oh, it's all hanging on me. If I do it crummily, they'll, the tree will be on my conscience forever. then I should be lying down in front of the chainsaw men.
Yeah, would you come back and film us if we hang ourselves swampy style in the tree? I tell you, I feel I would,
Well,
honestly.
sorry,
I hope it doesn't come to that.
So we've now had the...
Tree officer Anne has to explain her decision to recommend that the oaks come down.
The council structural engineer has had a look at the information and he concluded that the latest monitoring results from September to October, together with results from the previous site investigations, provides further evidence to implicate the oak tree in subsidence damage to the conservatory. So, on the basis of the information from the structural engineer, I think that unless members are prepared to face the potential compensation issues, then that's why it's recommended for approval.
Now, there is one speaker on this, Mrs. Coleman.
Claire is pleading the case for the first tree, and she has found a contradiction in the council's own report.
I think I will just... Surely an entire road of Grade 2 listed houses deserve Barnett's protection more than a single 1970s extension, which your own engineer castigates for being poorly built and considers, and I quote, the original builder is liable for the substance damage to the conservatory. It is we the people, the electorate, whose opinions should count. The tree itself has no voice, of course, but as you can see, the strength of feeling to save it is considerable. Please do the right thing and reject this application.
Is the applicant here, or is it?
As no one is attending to represent the insurance company, the application goes straight to a vote.
So can I move that this be rejected? That's been seconded? Can we have a vote?
The first oak is saved. The pressure is now on Deborah to save the second tree. And she has a new piece of evidence from a recent ruling in the High Court about tree protection.
And the ruling is that a tree should remain protected. In other words, if a house can be underpinned, the tree should remain. There is now no longer a legal option simply to take the cheapest action, i.e. the removal of the tree. In the light of this judgment, I believe you have a legal obligation to reject the application to fell the tree.
This is a very substantial asset to the local environment, and I think that we ought to reject it. And all those in favour, please show. That is rejected unanimously.
To the great delight and surprise of the residents, both applications to fell the oaks are rejected unanimously.
I feel completely delighted and somewhat surprised. I say I'm a terrible pessimist, so I was thinking, so I just suddenly thought, ooh, and it started to look like it was sort of turning our way. I was like, what? And Larry was kind of going, yes, and he's the optimist, like immediately things fine. I go, wait.
I think it's a kind of major achievement from all of us.
So let's hope that ruling makes a difference for trees across Britain.
The insurance company is currently appealing both decisions. The oaks may yet be felled. Next time, time's up for a dangerous building site.
We've given them the weekend to do it, nothing's happened, we're taking action.
The hunt is on for an unlawful airport car park.
This is very much a cat and mouse game.
And the proposed development threatens to overshadow residents.
We'll be really, imposing and we'll feel really hemmed in.
Will Smith gets a taste of life as James Bond. My wife wouldn't let me. It's filmed 2009 with Jonathan Ross next here on BBC One. And if you missed Damages on Sunday, you're in for a major surprise. Catch up at 11:35.